daily Bible devotions, we continue our week-long examination of logical fallacies. So today we're going to continue from where we left off yesterday. Yesterday we talked about the ad hominem logical fallacy, and today we're going to introduce two more logical fallacies. Let's jump right into it. Okay, yesterday this is what we talked about, the ad hominem, or the against the person or against the man fallacy. And then we'll also study about self-contradiction. What is self-contradiction? It's when a statement fails to satisfy its own conditions for rational acceptability or truthfulness. That sounds complicated. So in other words, it doesn't make sense. We've already given you an example of this last week. It's like this. The sign that says entrance only but is followed by do not enter. It doesn't make sense. It's contradicting itself. Let's look at more examples of that. I cannot speak a word of English. That is an outright contradiction because you just spoke everything else in English. There's also this. This is not a sentence. Then what is that? Okay, that is a self-contradiction. Here's more. There is no such thing as truth. This is the typical argument of those people who say that everything is subjective or everything is relative. They say that truth is relative, and the implication is that when truth is relative, that means I have my own truth, you have your own truth. There is really no truth in existence because we all have our own truth. But the moment you say that there is no such thing as truth, what does that mean? Is that statement true or not? Because if you say that's true, then that just contradicts with what you just said. You get what I'm saying? Okay. Here's another example. You should never believe anything without empirical evidence. Wow. Should you believe that? Think about it. Here's another logical fallacy. Okay, so we have ad hominem, we have self-contradiction, and then we have false dilemma. False dilemma is when a restrictive set of options are given when in reality there are actually more available. You're asked to choose from A or B when in reality there's actually C, D, E, and F, but they're being obscured or hidden. So you're being asked to choose only between A and B, but there are actually more options in store for you. So, what are some examples of that when your options are limited? You either like McDonald's or Jollibee. What if you don't like either? What if you want Burger King or Wendy's or other fast food or restaurants? So, in this statement, in this argument, it's like there's only Jollibee or McDonald's in existence. It's like you can't pick beyond that. But in reality, there are more options. So, that's a logical fallacy. False dilemma. Here's another thing. You're either a communist or a fascist. Very limiting. Here's more. You're either pro-gay or you're homophobic. I am not homophobic, but I am not pro-gay. But me being against homosexuality, that doesn't mean that I am homophobic because I have friends who are gay and I have no problem being friends with them. So see, this statement is very limiting. It's like it's putting me in a position where I am not really there, but I'm being forced into that. It's a false dilemma. Either God exists or evil exists. There are many gray areas on this, and it's a complicated situation that for us to understand this really, we have to go beyond. But sometimes the arguments limit us into these two options only, and we are not allowed to go further. And you see this sometimes in literature, in movies, or in TV series when the attorney is asking the witness on stand, asking them to simply answer the question with yes or no. And if the witness answers yes, it turns into a different path. If the witness answers no, it turns into a different path. But the truth, the reality, is actually somewhere in the middle or beyond the options that are being given. False dilemma. Here's more. Jesus is either man or God. And it's one of those statements that people still use up until now, because a lot of people acknowledge Jesus as a good teacher. Remember, yesterday I said that no one will actually call Jesus a bad teacher. People acknowledge Jesus as a great teacher, but they can't believe that Jesus is both man or God. They say it's either he's man or he's God. Only one of the two. Look at this. I already shared this last week. This passage from John chapter 10. This is when Jews wanted to stone Jesus. And they said that we are going to stone you. Look at this. It is not for a good work that we are going to stone you, but for blasphemy. Because you, being a man, make yourself God. They could not contend with the idea that a person can be both man and God. And in this case, Jesus can be that because he's both man and God. But they cannot make sense of that, and they're thinking there are only two possibilities on this. Either he's man or he's God. Can't be both in their thinking. So for them, Jesus is committing blasphemy. But this is only blasphemy if this is not true. But Jesus is truly man and truly God. And that's how he taught himself to be. So because of those extreme claims, very difficult claims by Jesus, some people resort to this false dilemma as well. Jesus is either a liar or a lunatic. It's either he's telling lies or maybe he's crazy. He's self-deceived. He believes he is God even though he's not. But is it really this simple? It's either he's just a liar or a lunatic. If he's a good teacher, and if no one can question his morals, if no one can question his behavior or attitude, then he cannot be a liar. Who dare calls Jesus a liar? Then maybe he's lunatic. But then again, if he's lunatic, then how can he do all those miracles? If he's a lunatic, how can he lead these people into the right path? His behaviors, his actions do not match someone that is diagnosed or consistent with lunacy. So he's not a liar, he's not a lunatic. What is he then? If we're putting this in just a false dilemma, there are only two options. But another option is this. According to C.S. Lewis, a theologian, the literary author of Narnia, he says Jesus is either a liar, a lunatic, or Lord. If he's not a liar, if he's not a lunatic, then maybe his claims are true. Maybe he is Lord. Now, if you are someone who's not yet a believer of Jesus, you can't wrap your mind around the idea that man and God can exist both in one person, in the person of Jesus. Then examine his teachings, examine his words, then judge Jesus for what he said and what he did, and decide for yourself whether you really think he's a liar or a lunatic, or maybe he really is. Maybe he is the Lord of all, the Lord of lords, the King of kings, as he claimed to be.